Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Township of Chatham Township Committee meeting for Thursday, March 10th, 2016. Greg, has adequate notice been given?
Yes, adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. Notice was given to both the Chatham Courier and the Morris County Daily Record on January 8th, 2016. Notice was posted on the bulletin board in the main hallway of the municipal building on January 8th, 2016. And notice was filed with the Township Clerk on January 8th, 2016.
Thank you, Greg. We have special guests here this evening. Weeblows Troop 333. I don't know if before we do the flag salute and the color guard, do you want to come forward and say a few things on behalf of the troop?
Me?
Would you like to do it? Or your troop leader?
We're really grateful that we've been given the opportunity to come today and present the flags. This is one of the requirements of the Weeblows, is to learn about the community and getting to be involved in the community and to become good citizens. So we're really grateful that we've had this opportunity, and we thank the Chatham Township for this opportunity.
Well, thank you so much again for coming out tonight, and we always love having the kids come out to do the color guard and saluting the flag here. So with that, we'll turn it over to you guys. We'll stand for the flag salute.
Color guard advance. Please repeat with me the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color guard, post the colors. Color guard dismissed. Is that it? Oh, the audience may be seated.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks again, guys, and remember, be sure to go on the website later this week, and you'll see yourselves on TV.
Thank you.
With that, we'll start with roll call, Greg.
Here. Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sullivan?
Here.
Mayor Ritter?
Here. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, before we get into reports, we have a number of proclamations today. It's Proclamation Day. We have the first one is National Nutrition Month, 2016, and we have Jennifer Luster, who's the RD, a registered dietitian over at ShopRite. I don't know if you want to come forward and say a few words before we read the proc. Thank you.
First, I wanted to say thank you for the support. I recently started as the registered dietitian at the ShopRite of Chatham. In the back, there is my calendar that has my contact information, and it has a lot of the programs that I have if anyone's curious. I do work with the senior centers in Chatham. I do Madison as well. I do the library to teach kids programs there, and then also with the YMCA. So that's back there. I also brought some fruit and vegetables, of course, so a little bit of healthy for everyone, so help yourself. And then there's also some recipes that are the Meal of the Week recipe called Helping Families Eat Better. So what that is a refrigerated case that is across from my office by the pharmacy in the ShopRite of Chatham. And each week there's a different recipe, and all the ingredients to make that recipe are all in the case. So it's convenient, they're simple to make, and they're healthy, so everyone knows that they're available. But I just wanted to thank you very much for this.
Well, thank you so much, and can't say enough about the importance of eating healthy, and encourage everyone to do that. So with that, I'll read the proclamation. Whereas food is the substance by which life is sustained, and whereas the type, quality, and amount of food that individuals consume each day plays a vital role in their overall health and physical fitness, and whereas there is a need for continuing nutrition education and a wide-scale effort to enhance healthy eating practices. Now, therefore, I, Kurt Ritter, Mayor of the Township of Chatham, do hereby proclaim the month of March as National Nutrition Month in the Township of Chatham. And I encourage all citizens to join the campaign and become concerned about their nutrition and the nutrition of others in the hope of achieving optimum health for both today and tomorrow. So, I'll give this to you, Jennifer.
Very good, very good. Everybody try to look healthy.
Our next proclamation, excuse me, American Red Cross Month 2016. In the Township of Chatham, we have a long history of helping our neighbors in need. American Red Cross Month is a special time to recognize and thank our everyday heroes, those selfless Red Cross volunteers and donors who give their time and resources to help community members. These heroes help families find shelter after a home fire. They give blood to help trauma victims and cancer patients. They deliver comfort items to military members in the hospital. They use their life-saving skills to save someone from a heart attack, drowning, or choking. They enable children around the globe to be vaccinated from measles and rubella. The American Red Cross depends on local heroes to deliver help and hope during a disaster. We applaud our heroes here in the Township of Chatham who give of themselves to assist their neighbors when they need a helping hand. Across the country and around the world, the American Red Cross responds to disasters big and small. In fact, every 8 minutes, the organization responds to a community disaster, providing shelter, food, emotional support, and other necessities to those affected. It collects 40% of the nation's blood supply, provides 24-hour support to military members, veterans, and their families, teaches millions life-saving skills such as lifeguarding and CPR, and through its Restoring Family Links program connects family members separated by crisis, conflict, or migration. We dedicate the month of March to all those who support the American Red Cross's mission to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies. Our community depends on the American Red Cross, which relies on donations of time, money, and blood to fulfill its humanitarian mission. Now, therefore, I, Kurt Ritter, Mayor of the Township of Chatham, by the virtue of authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim March 2016 as American Red Cross Month. I encourage all Township residents to support this organization and its noble humanitarian mission. Unfortunately, we don't have anyone from the Red Cross here tonight, but we'll be sure to send it off to them. And our third and final proclamation, this one is focused on domestic violence awareness. We heard from the chief earlier this year about the importance of bringing a greater awareness to domestic violence. We live in a very tranquil town of Chatham Township, and while we might like to think it happens, obviously it does happen here in Chatham Township. It happens everywhere, and this proclamation will help hopefully bring greater awareness to this and encourage victims of domestic violence to seek assistance and greater awareness to this important cause. So, no more week of action. Whereas 1 in every 3 women will experience domestic violence during her lifetime. 1 in every 4 women will experience sexual assault in her lifetime. And 1 in 6 men have had abusive or unwanted sexual experiences in their lifetime. Whereas approximately 15.5 million children are exposed to domestic violence every year. Whereas when a family member is abused, it can have long-term damaging effects on the victim that also leave a mark on family, friends, and the community at large. Whereas families are indispensable to a stable society, and they should be a place of support to instill responsibility and values in the next generation. Whereas these problems are widespread and are devastating to society as a whole. Whereas the problems of domestic violence and sexual assault are not confined to any group or groups of people, but crosses all economic, racial, gender, educational, religious, and societal barriers, and are sustained by societal indifferences. Whereas the crimes of domestic violence and sexual assault violate an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity due to the systemic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control and/or abuse. Whereas victims should have help to find the compassion, comfort, and healing they need, and abusers should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. Whereas victims of violence should have access to medical and legal services, counseling, emergency, and transitional housing, and other supportive services so that they can safely escape the cycle of abuse. Whereas we encourage victims of domestic violence and sexual assault and their families to seek assistance from appropriate victim services organizations. Whereas we strive to bring greater awareness of domestic violence and its brutal and destructive effects. Now therefore I, Kurt Ritter, Mayor of the Township of Chatham, do hereby proclaim the week of March 6th to the 12th, 2016 as No More Week of Action, and urge all citizens to actively support No More's work to end domestic violence and sexual assault. And we'll send this off to the folks there as well. Moving on to reports. Excuse me, Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to give a quick update on the Chatham Community Garden, which is appropriate with the weather we've been having. But the Community Garden is heading toward the start of what looks like its best season yet. We have only 8 garden plots left unregistered and unsold. These are 5-foot by 10-foot plots. So if you're interested in farming at the Community Garden this year, please visit the website, chathamtownship.org, and look under forms and documents, and you'll have all the detailed information there. And that's it. Mayor.
Thank you, Mike. Bob?
Just a couple of joint rec issues everyone sees on their agenda. On the consent agenda, the agreement for approving the joint rec program between us and the borough. I mentioned last meeting, Tom and his counterpart, Bob Fazzarano of the borough, have been working diligently over the last few months to get a new shared services agreement, and that's ready for the committee's approval tonight. And from my perspective, as we've transitioned to club sports, we used to pay our rec director a significant sum of money, and the borough had their own rec salary, and really we're basically paying $29,000 a year as our share of the joint rec program coordinator salary, and that's just such a dramatic shared service saving, and also with the club model and transitioning it to club sports model. I just think it's a real win-win for the borough, for the town, and also for our rec programs, because I think it's run from the people who are closest to it, which are the heads of the club sports. I think we're really headed in the right direction. I think this agreement brings all those issues home. So thank you, Tom, for working on this and bringing it to a conclusion. Anyone have any questions about the substance of it? Good to go. Good. Last meeting, I reported that we had walked the skate park and also the tennis courts, and we had agreed to ask John to look at and report back to us. John, you want to report now?
Sure.
And start off with the skate park.
I did. I did inspect both facilities. The skate park. What my observations, I just felt that I don't believe there's any major subsurface issues of settlement or anything unusual happening at that site. I believe it's just normal asphalt deterioration that you will see cracks forming over a period of time. I believe that the cracks, I believe they're originating due to the fact that pavement will move as the frost and as you get your freezing and thawing, you do get movement. Asphalt does move. If you recall, I think it was last year, we had some really substantial heaving in some of our roads, and then after it settled, it comes down. And then what I think is occurring is that we have the various different ramps, and as the pavement is heaving, you have different weights around that are causing different stresses in the pavement, and that's where the cracks are promulgating and coming out. I think that given the size of the cracks, I'm asking a contractor to give me a price to actually do infrared. Basically what they do is they heat up the pavement and they add some additional material, and they mend the material as if it eliminates the crack entirely. It's not going to, if we do that, we'll repair the crack, and then we can redo the resurfacing. The cracks will form again over time. I think there's no way of actually eliminating cracking. It's just a normal maintenance issue that you just have to manage with asphalt. But I think we'll extend the service life of the pavements far greater than trying to do a smaller repair. Over at the tennis courts, the cracking is not as substantial as the the skate park, but they are starting to get larger, and I see the cracks primarily forming perpendicular to the drains and parallel to the nets, and again, I think it's a matter of a matter of the pavement moving versus the nets being rigid, and it just creates a stress point in the pavement, and once a crack starts, it just tends to promulgate and move. And so at the tennis courts, I believe a practical approach would be we can apply some standard crack filling material and fill that. It's relatively inexpensive. It's something I can coordinate with the DPW to do. And then monitor that over a year. It is a temporary fix, but it'll at least give us an indication after a year to see if the cracks are truly moving substantially. And if they're moving substantially, then we can incorporate some additional treatments, and we may just want to look at when those treatments are incorporated. Do we incorporate them in the near future, or do we incorporate them when the actual courts need to be resurfaced with the coating and then incorporated at that point in time? So at that point, that's my assessment at this point.
So I know that I'd asked you about the courts of colony. Just came out while you were speaking. Would it make sense to ask Infrared to get a quote on it, because maybe there'd be a discount because they'd be doing it at the same time?
No, I don't think. I think it'll be more expensive, and I don't think it'll be as warranted in that location as. I think the sizing of the cracks and the way they're promulgating, I think that might be an overkill at this point.
Okay. Thank you, John. Karen?
Thank you, Your Honor. We have a lot of stuff going on around town. Our senior center, as you know, is working with our health department and other organizations to conduct a survey, which was produced with the funds we received from the Grotto Foundation this year. The survey is available throughout the Chathams and Madison in hard copy and online. Hard copy is here in the Township offices, as well as the public library, our senior center, etc. Plus also they have their own Facebook page now. And through SurveyMonkey, if you were to do a Google search of Tri-Town Plus, there's access to the survey. It's available to anybody 55 and over in the Chathams and Madison, and so I took it. It addresses, things that we see need improvement, things that we see are really advantageous to seniors in our community in order to create a real enhanced aging-friendly community. And it gives us a little bit more gravitas when it comes to applying for other philanthropic grants, when we show that we really are communicating well with our seniors and our aging population, and it looks like we have a really proactive relationship. The Senior Center, additionally, reminds you to check out their newsletter. There are a lot of exciting things going on going forward. A St. Patrick's Day party. Tax preparation is available on Thursdays through April with an advanced appointment. And open house Saturday, which will be this Saturday, and all are welcome, especially those who may want to see what the Senior Center is all about. Our Department of Public Works is out there busy getting ready for warmer weather and spring season. They're focusing on road repairs, of course, and urging residents to call in potholes and other wintertime damage. They have a second round of repairs for the Colony lot, which we designated as the Southern Boulevard drop-off and pickup area. The first round of paving and road improvement was done during the winter under some adverse weather conditions, but now it looks like we're going to get that really the way we want it. And the nets, notwithstanding the condition of the tennis courts, I guess, the nets are going to go up down at the tennis courts. Esternay and our other recreation fields will be lined for boys and girls lacrosse as well as for soccer. So our public works fellows are out there doing all that. And we are installing breakaway bases at Nash Field and at Mountain View baseball fields as well. The breakaway bases are shown to reduce the risk of injury due to sliding into a stolen base, a potentially stolen base. I'm also informed that mulch reservations will be commencing in April for the residents who want to avail themselves of our wonderful township mulch. So April 1st is the target date for reservations, and you can swing by the DPW offices, and Christy will be happy to take your check for $25 per 3 cubic yard load. And it can only be dropped off in your driveway. So as we move forward, make sure you have ample room. When I first joined the committee here, Mayor Sullivan, Mayor Ritter, you know that I was asked to be a liaison to our utilities, and to that end, we've had a great relationship with JCP&L, pretty good with PSE&G, and one that really needs to be worked on with New Jersey American Water. I've been working on opening the lines of communication with them regarding water main breaks, traffic problems, road closures, etc. They have promised to make a better effort in their social media. They claim to be very active on Twitter, active on Facebook. They've got a button on their homepage that says Red Alert, subscribe for us. We'll keep you posted on service interruptions. And the most recent issue that we had with them on Lafayette Avenue, which is a major artery, I think, you know, as the young people would say, it was just crickets. We didn't get any feedback from them at all. And knowing that it was going to be done before school started, you know, we were hopeful of that, and thank goodness it was. But Lafayette Avenue is a major thoroughfare, and when there's a water main break, we expect to be alerted. So I'm going to try and hold their feet to the fire in that regard. We are all customers of New Jersey American Water, and I believe we deserve better treatment and better communication. To that end, also, I think we need some better communication with Verizon, if that isn't ironic. Perhaps anybody here who has a working relationship with Verizon, we really need to reach out to them, because as trees fall in downed areas, they claim that they are not responsible for removing any tree damage to their wires until the service goes out and the wires come down. So I think we've got to get in touch with Verizon if anybody has any suggestions. Last but certainly not least, our Environmental Commission met this week, and they're following with great interest the coverage in the media about water quality. So we are staying on top of that, and, you know, visiting various websites about water testing and so on. They are trying to organize a new subcommittee to review the building plans in our township, which are available, and the subcommittee will meet a half an hour prior to the Environmental Commission's monthly meeting, just to go over certain building plans around town which may have an impact on our environment and our natural beauty of our community. And that is what I have, Your Honor.
Great. Thank you, Candace. I also want to thank you again for your efforts to maintain those relationships with utilities. I know Mike, I think, has done some work, you know, as well, but I appreciate your efforts in doing this. And
as I mentioned to some of the folks here, we're all customers. You know, we're customers of Verizon, we're customers of New Jersey American Water, and resident satisfaction should be paramount. For us to hear through Facebook that we have dissatisfied residents because of a utility problem it's not the way it should be. We should be able to be more proactive.
Agreed. Kevin?
Very good. The Friends of the Library are conducting their annual book sale. It's going on right now through Saturday at the Library of the Chathams. So I encourage everyone to get down there and pick up a bag of books. I mentioned at the last meeting the Historical Society, in a joint meeting of the Historical Societies of the Borough and the Township, will be presenting a talk about Alexander Hamilton and Betsy Schuyler. It'll be next Sunday, March 20th, but it's at the Presbyterian Church. Last meeting I said it was here at the Municipal Building. It's a joint meeting. It'll be held at the Presbyterian Church on Southern Boulevard. So please come out and enjoy that. If you're not so sure who Betsy Schuyler is, come out and you'll find out. And last item is this Saturday is St. Patrick's Day Parade in Morristown. It's a great day for the Irish, as the song goes. So come out and enjoy. For all those who you've always wanted to be Irish, come out and enjoy the day. So it should be fun.
Aaron, go Brown. Thank you. A couple items on my end. Colony Pool, we're working diligently in the marketing campaign as we look to open Colony Pool this summer. We're going to be sending out a postcard to all residents sometime in April, and other related marketing activities in that. Also want to talk about the Communications Committee. Thanks to Tom's office again. We put out the first inaugural video for Perspectives, featuring our very own Chief Henley in the back there. It's gotten some good hits. I encourage anyone who has not had a chance to view the video to go on our website, the homepage. You can see it, or you can just go to the Chatham Township-nj.gov/perspectives. And also nice to know that our next interviewee is our very own Rich Young from DPW. So some great footage there as well, I'm told. So again, it's an opportunity for us as a committee to help better communicate to our citizens and our residents about who the people are behind the scenes that help run our town. So thank you, Tom Salvis, again for your efforts on that end. Also, as we discussed, we're updating the website. We're doing periodic updates, but we're going to be doing an overall refresh for the website. I encourage all residents out there who view the website, utilize the website, to please, if you have thoughts, ideas, suggestions as to what you'd like to see in the website or anything about it, navigation-wise and everything else, email the communications group. You can email us at communications@chathamtownship-nj.gov. Happy to receive any and all suggestions. I know everyone's been talking about the rail strike potentially coming up Sunday evening into Monday, and who knows how much further from there. For Chatham Township residents, this perhaps would be the one and only time where, in fact, parking will be available for residents in the train station there. That aside, though, if in fact you want to get into the city, there are going to be buses leaving from the Madison train station as well as the Chatham Borough train station. We'll have details on our website. From what I understand, though, the Chatham Borough train station bus is going to be leaving at 5:30, $25 round-trip ticket, first come, first serve. Of course, press reports indicate that there's no guarantee that the bus will actually make it to the city. So I assume everyone is going to be able to figure out what they're going to do, work from home otherwise. The library will probably be available for Wi-Fi access. We do have Wi-Fi access here in the municipal building. If people are ever interested in that, please email the committee, and we'll see what we can do to accommodate those special needs, if anyone has those. So with that, I will turn it over to John for your report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to address two items on the consent agenda. Resolution 2016-081. We discussed this briefly at the last meeting regarding a contract time extension only, not a dollar value, just a time extension for Hutton Construction. They're doing the drainage project in Wickham Woods area. My recommendation, which is in the resolution, is just to extend. They requested a 60-day contract extension, and their comment was, well, that just gives us some freeboard. Well, my feeling was, let's give them 30 days and let's work hard and get done as soon as possible, because we do want that work to be completed and any settlement to occur before we pave the road. So we can just revisit this, frankly, in 30 days, and if they do need an extension because we get into unusual wet weather or anything, we can grant it. But in light of that, I'd just like to keep the feet to the fire and just try and get the work done as soon as possible. And second resolution is 2016-082. It's a change order for the contract number 1 for the sewer project. That was performed by PM Construction. One of their tasks was to construct a new pump station over at the Chatham Glen wastewater treatment plant. And we've discussed in detail with PM to solicit a price for them to demo a portion of the plant. The portion that I focused on is for safety considerations. The one building, which is referred to as the RBC room, it's about maybe more than half the size of the plant, but the room itself, it's become unsafe. There's rotted roof trusses. It's just a structure that we do not want our DPW in, and it's just a matter of taking down that portion of the building. The other component that I solicited a price on is for the open clarifier at the facility. It's an open concrete structure and it's filled with water, and it's just a safety to have that at the site. So the scope of the work includes disconnecting all the electrical components to plumbing, demoing the building, that large portion of the building in its entirety. Basically, there'll be grass established in that location. And there's also a very small cost that's incorporated to do some minor repairs on the existing building, just so that when they take this off, it doesn't look like the building was demolished, it just looks like the building is smaller. And so the remaining portion, there's a lot of equipment in the remaining portion of the plant that has some salvage value. So we're going to look at, seeing if we could, there's a lot of wire, a lot of, metals that could be recycled. And that portion is also much significant in mass with all the reinforced concrete. So it'll be a very substantial cost to remove that portion. And there isn't an immediate health issue or safety concerns with the other portion. So at this point, the recommendation was just to take advantage of this contractor being available. He's a very competent contractor and has the equipment that's needed to all the concrete demolition work that's necessary. And I did ask the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection if this would be covered under the low interest loan, and they did agree that it would be an acceptable change order. So my recommendation is to award a contract change for PM Construction, and the change is $102,304.44, which would make their total contract of $2,446,312.52.
Correct. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, John.
Okay.
Tom?
Is that still within the confines of the?
Yes. Yeah, it's still within the funds that are available.
Just to quickly supplement Karen's report, the tennis court nets are up. They were put up earlier this week, so that anybody wants to go play tennis, they can do so. And to supplement your report on Colony, just to alert everyone that we anticipate going live with this year's registrations, possibly as early as tomorrow, more likely on Monday. We'll do a full marketing rollout later in the month or early in April. But one of the things I wanted to alert people that do register early is to look for a new item that'll be on the menu, and that's the luau. The advisory committee and Mayor Ritter have worked to put together a full calendar of social events at Colony for this coming season, and one particularly exciting new event will be an adults-only luau, I believe to be held on July 16th.
And pig roast.
And pig roast. No, I thought luau includes pig roast by definition, but maybe not. So anyway, it's going to be huge. It's going to be great. It's going to be the greatest thing ever.
It's going to dive off the turtle into the...
Yeah. So
Will there be a new fashion line as well?
I think there probably will be some new fashions, but we're going to reserve comment on that for now. But anyway, I just want to urge people to look for that item when they do their registration, because we are looking to pre-sell it. We need to have a certain number of people in order to, make it go forward. So look for that on the menu, purchase it. It'll be very reasonably priced, $35 per person, $60 per couple.
Thank you, Tom. And of course, the website, thecolonypoolclub.org. So again, it's going to be a great season this year for the Colony Pool Club. A lot of great activities, and encourage anyone who has an interest to go to the site and learn more. With that, we're going to open it up for the hearing of citizens. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are not topics scheduled for public hearing tonight. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit that all are heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Okay. No one coming forward. We'll move on. We have the final adoption of our open space ordinance. This is ordinance 2016-10, an ordinance of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, amending the provisions for the funding of open space acquisition. We'll open up for hearing of citizens. Okay. Any discussion from the committee? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Gallup?
No.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sullivan?
Yes.
Mayor Ritter?
Yes. The next ordinance, it's an introduction of an ordinance. Ordinance 2016-11, an ordinance of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, establishing fees for the Summer Recreation Playground Program. We'll open up for hearing of citizens.
No.
Oh, next destination. Okay, then we're just introducing it. So is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Gallup?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sullivan?
Yes.
Mayor Ritter?
Yes.
Public hearing on March 24th.
And for those who don't know, this is the greatest program ever offered to anybody, anywhere.
It's amazing. And it's going to be really big this summer.
Really big.
And just so people know, the playground program is the summer camp.
Yes.
Moving on to the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? All right, no discussion. Is there a motion to approve?
Would you like me
Do
to
you want to read it first,
please?
Greg?
We have, this meeting, we have Resolution 2016-073, payment of bills, 2016-074, approving meeting minutes, 2016-075, approving executive session minutes, 2016-076, approving list of volunteers eligible for length of service awards program, 2016-077, refunding permit fee, 2016-078, releasing escrow balances, 2016-079, approving agreement for joint recreation program, 2016-80, salary resolution, 2016-081, authorizing extension of Hutton construction contract, and 2016-082, authorizing change of scope for Chatham Glen Pump Station project.
Thank you, Greg. Is there any discussion from the committee? No discussion. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Mr. Gallup?
Yes to all.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sullivan?
Yes.
Mayor Ritter?
Yes. All right, our next item up is a discussion regarding the open fire regulations. I don't know if Kevin, you're closest to this. Do you want to discuss
Well,
or Tom?
I
you wanna-
guess Mr. Howard is here. Right?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
For those who haven't met before, Barry Howard is our longtime fire subcode official, fire prevention officer, retired fireman himself, and professional in the field.
25 years here. Goes like that. But it's been a great ride. Okay, the ordinance before you is, in the 25 years I've been here, this is not a rampant problem in the township, but I'm going to say we've had maybe a dozen to maybe 2 dozen concerns or calls about open burning. Green Village has had their share. This side of town has had their share. With the popularity now of chimeneas, fire pits, you go to Home Depot, you can buy a fire pit, throw whatever you want in there. Well, not really. You're supposed to put in seasoned, dried firewood. Well, we have found in the past, people just burning wet wood, creating a smoke. It becomes a nuisance. The weather conditions sometimes, the heavy air keeps the smoke low, fills the neighborhood. The police officers that have been dispatched to these calls with the fire department, they've had really no power to tell the person, you got to put this fire out. So by having this ordinance, we now can somewhat regulate that and see that it doesn't get out of hand. We've had cases where people have been using fire pits on wooden decks. We've had cases where people are using the fire pits too close to the home. Once again, they've been using it in where atmospheric conditions create a heavy smoke in the area. Usually when you burn clean, dry wood, there's very little smoke with it. It's when you start putting stuff in there like treated wood, rubbish, a damp wood, that you're going to start getting more of a smoke condition. So what this is trying to do, this ordinance, is curb that. Let's make it safe. Let's make it enjoyable for everybody so it doesn't become a nuisance in the neighborhood. Now, Kevin, you had some items to discuss on this?
I did. Did you see my email?
Yeah, I have your note.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, in regards to Kevin's first note, is there a fee for nonprofits to get a permit? If a nonprofit, say the high school used to do a big bonfire at homecoming. we wouldn't charge them a fee for that, but they would have to pull at least a permit because there are certain criteria that they have to meet to have a bonfire in the state of New Jersey. Your other question on that was, is it just a precautionary measure? Yes.
Right.
I'm not sure if everybody has Kevin's note. You do?
No, I don't think everyone has it, just Tom. I sent it to Tom and Albert. No. I'm fine. Yeah, that was my question, you know.
Right.
And that
Okay.
makes sense.
There was a concern that you had about the size of the fire pit.
Yes.
The standard size is a 36-inch. There are larger sizes, but those are usually natural gas or propane.
I did see in some landscape steel, you know, the fire pits, yes.
Right.
The ones you buy at Home Depot and you
Right.
throw in your trunk. But some of the landscaped ones, it comes with a 38-inch cylinder, steel cylinder. You know, 2 inches, I just, you know, you'd hate to have someone, you know, have to come in and get a variance or a permit to get the approval for that. I mean, if that's what some of them are. Some of them are as big as 48.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, no need to go there, but
Yeah.
I just say 38 inches is a slight, and it may solve some headaches.
The standard that I use to put this ordinance together comes from the New Jersey Uniform Fire Code, which is based on the International Fire Code. And that's the standard
Okay.
size
I would just
that they
suggest
go
that people
by.
go online, they buy one, and they find out. They're breaking the law? Yeah, so.
Right. I saw very few that were 38 inches. I did see some that were like 64 inches.
Yeah.
But that's a larger landscaped one, which I believe the building department or the construction department gets involved in that when they're doing a
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to avoid.
landscaped area.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to avoid. You know, someone goes online and buys one, and then they realize, you know,
Right.
they can't take it.
There was concern that you had about that the fire pit remain covered. Well, manufacturer specifications basically
Listen,
says
this is
keep
not
a
about
cover
that.
on
This
it.
is about the verbiage of how the ordinance is written.
Okay.
Right? So it's really, this is not about whether we should or we shouldn't.
Oh, okay.
It's just about how the verbiage, the choice of wording is used. And I'm just suggesting a slightly different worded, you know, so there's no misunderstanding.
Right, right.
So,
Well, the whole reason for a cover on the fire pit, obviously, is to keep the sparks from traveling far. If a person decides not to use that, I would think then they accept the liability for anything that
Absolutely.
happens, you know.
absolutely.
So,
And all these issues, essentially, as you read down the line, right? At some point, the homeowner has to accept the liability,
right,
right? So we'll get down to the further issues, but 15 feet, we'll go to the 15 feet from a structure.
correct.
You know,
That's-
depending on, if you have a rectangular house or a square house, pretty easy to meet. If you have a house with setback here and a setback here, and you got a corner patio, and 15 feet measured from the corner, all of a sudden really becomes a challenge. So at what point do you say, listen, the homeowner has to be a little bit responsible for their actions? It's their property, it's their house. If they're going to burn it down, we certainly don't want to put anyone in harm's way. But it's going the legislative distance that doesn't need to be there. It's not a permanent structure, it's a fire pit. Now, the fireplaces, I understand, which is the point, that maybe there does need to be some coding ordinance in the structures that are built next to the home, and that required distance. But for a mobile fire pit, I think it's one of those things that, you know, no one's going to come out with a measuring stick and no one's going to follow it, and people are going to put it in the center of their patio and sit around it, and that might only be 8 feet or 6 feet from the house, which is up, you know, which is them to be careful. They have to maintain some level of responsibility.
Once again, I'm just going by the international standard.
No, I understand. I'm
Yeah,
just trying to
yeah.
make it, we're introducing an ordinance, and, you don't want to introduce an ordinance where it's just unrealistic and unnecessary, and it puts the police department or someone else in certain situation where now they have to go by the book, so to speak, and then you open yourself up to a potential fine. And someone, I'm sure the chief would say, well, we would never fine someone for that. But it's in our ordinance. So if we're never going to fine them for it, let's not put it there, and let's just take a more common sense approach to it.
To that end, Barry, you said you got 24 calls?
I'm sorry?
You said you had about 2 dozen calls?
In the 25 years I've been
So
here.
that's 1 call a year on average.
Probably more recently. I would say maybe 2.
What is the reason we're bringing this forward tonight, or just in general? Just
Because-
to check a box and say we're up to standards, or?
Well, it kind of, the police officers and the fire officers on the scene, their hands are basically tied, because this is covered
For
by
the
the
one time a year that
uniform.
they go out to these incidents?
I'm sorry?
For the one time a year they're coming out to these incidents?
Well, if it is one time a year, it could be more. They're becoming more popular now.
I think the gist of the ordinance, right, you don't want people burning stuff, trash, garbage.
Which we have had.
In their backyard. And I think that should be the focus and the gist of the ordinance, which the bulk of it is. And I'm just trying to separate what that focus should be. That should be the focus of the ordinance. And the fire pit, some of the fire pit requirements that you have in here. Later on, I talk about the hours, extinguish it at midnight. Well, as I said, I've quietly sat around a couple of very mellow fire pit fires till 2 a.m. in the morning. And all you need is one neighbor to pick up the phone and say, they got a fire going next door. And here comes the police department. What's the police department? Now you put them in a bad situation, because it makes homeowners feel, that they can't enjoy that, and the police department has to enforce the law, and they're being the bad guys for something that doesn't need to really go to that length.
Do we have a current ordinance
we
right
just
now?
don't need to.
The problem, though, Kevin, is that at 2 o'clock in the morning, the call that comes into the police probably is not really motivated because you have a fire going.
Exactly.
It's because you're also being noisy.
But
you
if you're
may
not-
have sparks flying around, you may be smoking out the neighborhood.
Right. That's another
So I've
issue.
got to close my window because your smoke is coming in. So when the police go and show up, they need the ability to be able to say, guys,
And
2 o'clock in the morning, enough is enough.
That's a different issue. That's a different issue. You're talking about 2 different things.
I'm really not.
You are. You're talking about noise. You're talking about a violation of a noise ordinance.
But most of the calls
and
are
a
not.
disturbance to the community, where realistically you're sitting around a fire pit, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, 3 couples, whatever it might be. You're sitting there. It's a low glow fire, and you're enjoying it.
And
there's very
I
little
don't think
smoke
we don't get calls complaining about those kinds of situations. Where we get
Exactly.
calls is,
Exactly. That's
No,
my
now
point.
you're
So
giving
why put it in here?
Why have the ordinance at all?
because people do get carried away.
Exactly.
They do
When
throw
they get
leaves
loud,
in the fire. They
exactly,
throw
and the ordinance
paper in
and the
fire.
language that I'm suggesting still allows you to deal with that.
May I
I'm
interrupt?
saying take some of the stuff out of there that doesn't make sense.
Do we have an ordinance right now that prohibits brush burning and that sort of thing?
And garbage, and
I don't
No,
really, I
that's-
don't,
we don't have
Right,
an
you
outdoor.
can't burn your twigs. You can't
burn
go
You
around
already have
picking up
that.
all your twigs from the yard and throwing it in the fire pit and burning. It's only seasoned dried wood.
We already have that.
But what do you do?
ordinance?
I mean, so you
We
talk about
don't- we
seasoned
don't
dried
have
wood.
that.
We do not. Do we have an ordinance that prohibits burning of garbage?
No, we don't.
No.
We don't have an ordinance?
How
that
often does it
prohibits
happen?
Burning of garbage?
How often does this happen? I mean, let's talk about common sense,
there
legislation.
have been properties where it has been habitual. So, is it widespread throughout the community? No.
I think you need to address
but the
that.
police-
I think the ordinance does address that, and I think you do need to address that. You need to have something on the books, and you need to have something where it does give the police the backup that you're looking for. All I'm saying is, as I've reworded some of it, is to take out some of the stuff that is really common sense up to the homeowner and doesn't restrict those people from enjoying their property and enjoying their fire pits. And put some responsibility back on them. It has to be on them. It doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I don't think there's any argument about that.
We
You know,
talk
I'm not sure
about-
that I understand specifically what your objections are at this point.
Well, did you read my?
I did.
I went point by point. I changed the language. I even wrote it to try and help it along. I mean, I don't know if you have objections to what
I'm still
you
trying to
know.
understand what the need is for this ordinance.
Okay, right now, we have the Uniform Fire
No,
Code.
okay, I can understand we don't have something in place. My point is, you've got 24 calls in 25 years. On average, that's one call a year. I don't see the need just to put regulation in place for regulation's sake.
The fire pits are starting to become more popular. People didn't have them 15 years
So
ago.
let's put a campaign,
So now
awareness
they're-
campaign about people, when they're doing this, what they should think about. Far better to educate people than to regulate them, in my perspective. Anyone else going to agree or disagree?
I do think you need an ordinance that addresses the comments we said earlier about burning things in your backyard that you shouldn't be burning. You shouldn't be burning your garbage. You shouldn't.
But my point is, how many people are actually out there burning
They're
their
not doing
garbage?
it, right.
They're
But-
not doing it.
but-
Chief, if you want to come up and talk, you can offer your comments, and the guys in the force who come down and have their arms tied and their hands tied because they're giant bonfires in people's backyards burning rubbish.
Majority of the issues that we've had throughout my career is smoke. It's all related to smoke. It's the smoke that fills homes of neighbors, smoke that lingers in neighborhoods, and the calls are to the fire department or to the police department for a fire somewhere. So that's the main issue that we deal with. There's many more than one or two a year. So, I certainly understand the issue of over-regulating this ordinance, but really, it comes to the whole smoke issue. That's what we're dealing with.
Don't you love that smell in the winter air? You smell that smoke?
Not in my house.
I also, if I could just,
I understand. I understand. I understand.
I think we'd also benefit, maybe from also the fire department perspective, and that is, when you see the video about how quickly the Christmas tree, a small spark, the whole house is on fire in 2 minutes, and we've all seen those videos. And what we're talking about is all of a sudden it's fashionable to have these type of fire pits, and people probably don't, realize that perhaps that there is some exposure, and that an ash or an ember can, go to a piece of wood, and how quickly that can go up in flames. So to have standards, the 15 yards from any structure or combustible exterior wall, I think that actually does make sense, because if those are the standards that have been tested, and there's reasons for those standards, then those are good things for homeowners to keep in mind and for protecting their structure. So I don't see anything wrong with that.
Well, I would argue that if someone goes to Home Depot tomorrow, picks out a fire pit, puts it in their backyard, they're not going to know anything about this ordinance until their house burns down, is what you're saying. Right? The police are going to come out there, and they're going to say, oh, smoke. Then you can say, oh, it's got to be 15 feet away. Presumably, you're not going to find them initially, right? You'll say it's got to be 15 feet away, whatever the case.
I would just say, as I said in my email to you, Barry, that role, that function, just like you buy that ladder at Home Depot, just like you buy the power tool, you buy the chainsaw, it comes with 37 different stickers on it about how to, what not to do and what to do. So do the fire pits. And I think from a perspective of you're buying a fire pit is no different than that. And you should understand that you need to keep it a reasonable distance away from your home. Now, whether that's who's making it is, and it's open up to and I'm leaving that interpretation in the good hands of the homeowner to determine where that should be, whether that's 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet. They're going to make a determination anyway on their patio where that ought to be, and we should leave that decision up to them. We shouldn't be drawing a line in the sand. You got to keep it 15 feet back. It's unusual, it's unreasonable, and it's not going to be adhered to, and so why put it in there? Just put into the ordinance that at a safe, reasonable, safe distance, you have to understand. As Mr. Gallup is saying, it's a good thing, but let's make it a good thing. Let's make it a warning that in using your fire pits, keep it a reasonable, safe distance from your structure, and let the homeowner determine that.
Barry, maybe you could just for the benefit of maybe all the public watching at home, when you say these standards are taken from various codes, and you can explain.
Well, the New Jersey Uniform Fire Code, which
Right.
has adopted the International Fire Code.
Right. So these codes that are adopted, are they adopted through testing and peer review?
Yes.
Okay, and then what does that mean, actually? In other words, they've been, peer review and testing, it's not like it's...
They have determined that 15 feet is a safe distance.
They've done tests on that.
From a structure.
And then
Correct.
peer reviewed.
It leaves no interpretation. It says 15 feet.
Right.
To you, and to the gentleman next to you, what's a safe distance?
They don't know. They don't know. And so my point is actually...
And the average homeowner hopefully has common sense, yes. But there are people out there that don't have common sense.
And having standards, legal standards, and of course we're talking about Kurt says, well, you're not going to know until your house burns up, but you're also then perhaps jeopardizing a neighbor's house. So it has more public implications than just your own house. And of course, if you're the babysitter's there with your kids and having a fire go and the parents are out, well, there's health, and it's more than just property we're talking about. We're talking about the lives of our citizens. So it's
I think there has to be
not limited to a structural
To that end, Bob, I can interrupt for 1 second. Do we have something in this ordinance that speaks to then if you got an open fire pit that you need to have child protective gates around it as well, so kids can't accidentally walk up to it and burn themselves? I mean, to what extent are we going to go with this?
Yeah, I think as a homeowner, right, you're a homeowner. You have a certain amount of responsibility inherent in the fact that you're a homeowner. Now, that doesn't preclude people from doing stupid things, but mandating that it's a certain distance or does not help any of those situations.
Currently, Tom, if you build a fireplace in your backyard, does that need to be permitted?
It's an accessory structure, it would be definitely included in the building permit process.
So that when they come in for the permit to build a fireplace in their backyard, presumably they're getting educational material as well to support or help them understand what they should. Okay.
I think in an effort to maybe move this along, I would suggest that Mr. Sullivan's comments be incorporated, so number 5, to amend that, to read outdoor fireplaces, fire pits must be located a safe distance.
Can we ask ABM if we want to introduce this?
Well, that's, I think, the first question.
Well, I'm going to suggest that with these changes, maybe you'll find it more palatable, and then I'll shut up, even though I was going to offer the greatest solution ever.
Give it a shot.
Just change number 5 to read, must be located a safe distance from any structure or combustible exterior wall or adjoining property line, and delete paragraph number 9.
Yeah, but to Barry's point, when you put in the totally vague standard, a safe distance, which no homeowner is going to know what it is,
Yeah, but also no homeowner is going to get out their measuring tape and measure off 15 feet. I have a chimney, I have a little portable fire screen that I set out on my patio, and I've never measured to make sure that I was 15 feet from the house, but I sit there with it, I'm monitoring it, I have a hose 10 feet away, so I don't really think that whether I'm 10 feet or 15 feet makes a difference.
But when we're passing an ordinance, it's going to be enforced by the police. There should be objective standards that the police can use to determine if there's a violation. You don't want Chief Henley's guys and come into a call, and I just don't think legally that would be an enforceable ordinance when you say a safe distance. That's, what's the old void for vagueness?
But then,
You're not going to be responding to a call where somebody says he's got his fireplace too close to his own house.
Chief,
generally
and we were
has-
just talking about that, you know, that, the 15 feet is just, it's more or less a recommendation for the homeowner not to put it within 15 feet
So if you have a
based on the fire
recommendation, you
standard.
can't make it into a
We're not
law.
going to carry a tape measure, we're not going to enforce 14 feet or 13
Chief,
feet.
can I ask a
Even
question?
this ordinance, you know, the ordinance is great. It's like most ordinances. It's there if we need it. We're not going to be out there driving around looking to enforce this ordinance. What happens in most cases is it's a neighbor complaining about
About
a
the
smoky
smoke.
condition
Right.
from the neighbor's
So the police
chimney.
department is going to make a judgment call on that,
So,
Well,
right? But we're not going to make a judgment
Essentially,
call.
like most of the cases with ordinances, we would go out and make a recommendation to the complainant that the procedure for filing a complaint against their neighbor for whatever condition exists.
But when, as a practical matter, wouldn't it be, and Albert, if I could just, I mean, you're talking about a backyard setting, so the police can only go on private property with probable cause. So the police are not going to be going in someone's backyard and saying, hey, you know, you're 15 feet, it should be 13 feet. The only way they're going to go and get that and encounter that issue is as an ancillary issue where you go because there's a smoke issue. And then you come to the backyard and say, you know what, the structure is actually 5 feet from the house. That's a real danger and it's a violation of this code. And what's most likely going to happen is you're going to speak to the homeowner, give them a warning, explain to them why that's an issue, and hopefully they'll move it, and so next time, you know, the house burns down. But it's going to be an ancillary issue because you're not going to go to a house on that issue because you're never going to have probable cause to go into a backyard to see if something's, you know, 15 feet away from the house.
well, you might go back there because something's burning and you want to investigate what's going on.
No, usually what happens is someone in the neighborhood will call and say there's a fire somewhere because there's a lot of smoke. So the officers go, the fire department comes out, we drive around, and we find the source.
And when you
Right,
go to
now the issue is, well, what are they burning? Are they burning dry wood? Are they burning garbage? We've had those issues. We had a long-standing issue out on Britton Road that our hands were tied, and our hands were tied, and this was an ongoing Hatfield-McCoy fight
Of people
for
burning
years, and it all dealt with
garbage?
smoke. Could have been. It could have been.
Years.
It could have been.
yeah,
If I
But-
could make two suggestions. One, I think this is a health safety issue that should probably be referred to the police committee and flushed out there a little bit better. Secondly, I would agree with Mr. Gallup, if you're going to adopt an ordinance, you have to set a standard. To say a reasonable distance fails to set a standard, and as Mr. Gallup said, that ordinance is unenforceable, it's void for vagueness. So I think on the distance issue, you have to pick a distance, because you have to set a standard. That's what this ordinance is about. But I think that you may want to consider this at the police committee and come back with some recommendation.
Let me ask this, Albert, also.
yeah, or kill
because-
it.
Well, let me ask this also, because there's there are a lot of permanent fireplaces, outdoor fireplaces, stone being built now. Does this issue need to go, that specific issue, need to go before the planning board?
This is not a zoning ordinance.
Well, it is if you start saying where you can put certain things on your property.
This is not a zoning ordinance. This is more.
This doesn't change that. You know, if it's a structure outside, it has to be within the zoning regulations.
Can we put a recommendation in there on 15? It is
Well, I don't think that
recommended-
achieves that.
No.
I say
Then
just
you've got
remove
all
it.
the
I would just say
recommendations.
remove that completely, but
I'd say remove it entirely. Chief, one question to you. When your guys go to these homes with the smoke and they say, hey, neighbor complained, how many times do they confront you and say, get off my property? Or they'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, you know what, we'll do something.
It's usually an apology.
Exactly.
Because
right?
they don't know.
Not only that-
They don't know what they've caused. You know,
Exactly.
the panic with their neighbors or the inconvenience.
And how can they remediate the situation right then and there, right? They can't.
Yeah.
They can't douse the fire. It'll produce more smoke. It goes out, they've gotten their warning, they've got the heads up, that's it.
Right.
I'm going to propose, I appreciate Barry making the effort, great job. I would propose not even introducing this, killing this entirely.
I'd like
to hear from the perspective of, I think it's not only is it a police issue, but it's a fire issue. Barry's raised some concerns about these increasing structures in town, and because...
Just make sure you're using your mic. I hear someone's not.
I'm sorry. That it's an increasing, similar to the drone issue and getting out ahead of it as opposed to being behind the curve, that is it an issue that that is presenting a public safety issue, and I think the fire department would have an interesting perspective about whether this 15-foot standard is important for the town to have from a public safety perspective. I'm looking at not from a police enforcement perspective, but from a public safety perspective, getting ahead of the curve. We have these new structures coming up, and they're easily purchasable at Home Depot. Maybe we need to get ahead of the curve and hear from our fire department as to whether these standards are important, not from a police enforcement position, but from a public safety position.
I can appreciate, again, the fire department's perspective, but getting ahead of the curve for outdoor fire pits, and these have been around for years. This is not a new issue. Again, 24 calls, 25 years.
Well, let me just say something also. I think we're getting caught up in the fire pit part of this ordinance. As I said before, I think there is a legitimate concern, and there probably does need to be an ordinance addressing open fires in your backyard and burning stuff you shouldn't be burning. And again, I think that should be the focus of the ordinance, which you address that early on. I just think we need to take some of the fire pit or remove all the fire
If that's the
pit.
case, I would propose a no garbage burning ordinance, period.
Well,
When I say 24 calls, those are 24 calls that I am aware of. I am not here 24 hours a day.
No.
So those are, as the chief says, they're...
Thank you, Barry. All right.
If I may,
move
Mr.
along.
Cruz made a suggestion to either refer it to the Public Safety Committee or kill it. I would suggest at this point it's an
All right,
appropriate
we'll just
time
do a quick
to decide one of
voice
those
vote in
two
terms of if they want to
things.
refer it to the Public Safety Committee.
I would suggest referring it and modifying it. I've made my modifications, and maybe they can go a little further after the discussion tonight, but I'm happy with that.
Karen?
I say go back to the drawing board and start all over again. I just think there's just too much wrong with this. I think there's too many onerous and unnecessary restrictions and requirements of a homeowner. I'm looking at section number 3 here that says that you're only allowed to use a commercially manufactured device. What if I'm a handy person and I want to build a non-permanent fire pit in my backyard, and now all of a sudden I'm in violation just because I've done it myself and I haven't gone out to buy a commercially manufactured one, specifically designed landscape professionals? I think that's onerous and unfortunate. I just think that there's better work to be done by starting all over again.
I think the foundation's there. It's just in the wording. I think it's just some in the wording. That's which I was trying to originally get at in the beginning.
Mike, Till, go.
I think it needs further work. I think that there sounds like there could be a legitimate reason to look into restrictions on smoke that interferes with neighbors, and certainly the idea of noise around a fire pit late at night. I mean, are we covered in that department already? And I'd be curious to know to what extent the state codes, fire codes, already regulate some of this, and to what extent we can step back from that and not try to get involved in that part of it at all. So I'd say definitely look at it further before we comes back to the Township Committee.
Bob?
Yeah, I think public safety can look at it and see what decisions they can make.
All right, well, 4-1. So Public Safety Committee will take it up and see how we can revise it and reintroduce a more palatable ordinance for introduction.
Thank you very much.
Kevin, myself.
Thank you, Barry.
Thanks, Barry, again, for all your help and your work. Moving on, we've got the hearing of citizens. Open up for hearing of citizens. Everyone wants to come forward?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you, Barry.
Seeing no one coming forward, we have executive session. Greg, you want to read that for us, please?
We have Resolution 2016-P-05, resolution of the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham in the County of Morris, New Jersey, authorizing conference of the Township Committee with the public excluded. Whereas NJSA 10:4-12 of the Open Public Meetings Act permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey as follows. 1. The public shall be excluded from discussion of the specified subject matter. 2. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. A. Litigation in the matter of the Township of Chatham for a judgment of compliance of its third round housing element and fair share plan, docket number MRS-L-1659-15. B. Contract negotiations, new singular wireless PCS AT&T lease. C. Contract negotiations, interlocal services agreement to retain joint counsel. D. Personnel retaining joint counsel related to the Pilgrim Pipeline. 3. It is anticipated that the minutes on the subject matter of the executive session will be made public upon conclusion of the matter under discussion, and in any event when appropriate pursuant to NJSA 10:4-7 and 4-13. 4. The committee will come back into regular session and may take further action. 5. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
Thank you, Greg, and I believe we will be taking action this evening?
No.
No, not at all? Okay. All right, very good then. Do I have a motion to, introduction, anyone approve the resolution? Motion?
Yes.
Yes. Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Gallo?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sullivan?
Yes.
And Mayor Ritter.
Yes. Motion to adjourn?